So, do you find yourself in situations where people don't listen to you, they interrupt you, they talk over you, or you feel disrespected when you speak? This is very, very common. And today I want to share the four uncomfortable truths as to why people are not listening to you. The good news is the power is within you, which might be horrible news to your ego, but it really is bringing the power back to you. And that's what I want to talk about today. But before I get going, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Anuska Taylor, and I'm an experienced voice coach and Jungian depth coach. And I really help clients to reclaim their most authentic voice, the voice that is free, the voice that's powerful, expressive, clear, and open, and is unafraid to express itself, but it's also unafraid to just be quiet and listen. So it's two sides of the same coin. And if this interests you, if you're ready to go deeper with your voice, please do consider subscribing. If you would like to work with me, I do have a signature 8-month private voice coaching program, Speak with Impact. There's more information below. You can book a 30-minute free consult if you are really ready to invest in yourself and your voice, because this is transformational coaching beyond your voice. You really shift on a deep level how you really feel, think, and see yourself and the world. So, on that note, then, the first principle I think that underpins everything I'm going to talk about today is that the world is simply a mirror to what's going on within. So, there is no out there as much as we're taught that there is an out there, and there's people doing things to me and upsetting me, and there's toxic people and narcissistic people, blah, blah, blah. But if it bothers you, if it's a pattern, if it triggers you, if it's just all you seem to notice, then it's pointing to something within you. And this is a really important principle for today's video, because everything I'm going to talk about really is about you bringing the power back, reclaiming the projection, you owning who you are, and really starting to get that these people that we perceive in the world that are blocking us and annoying us and are angry and critical, fill in the blank, that they're really our greatest teachers if we understand how to use it. It doesn't mean we have to let them off the hook and just roll over and be a doormat, but we see it for what it is. And then it takes some of the irritation and tension and agitation away from the situation. So just as a premise then, before I start getting into the four, although maybe this is number 5, that your reality right now is simply a projection of your unconscious mind. And notice I say unconscious, you're not conscious of it. You're not often even aware of half of this, because 95% of our mind isn't even conscious. So it's really important to get that, because your ego mind will resist this and say, no, no, I don't want this. So consciously you don't want it, but unconsciously you do. Or there's something within you that does. So just as a basic premise for this video, just keep that in mind as we go through, because that underpins everything I'm going to be talking about. So let's talk about number 1 then. And I have talked about this before on a previous video, but I'm going to talk about it today because actually all 4 of what I'm going to talk about today, they all kind of interconnect, they're interrelated. Like, again, nothing is separate. So you'll see that there's actually a sort of theme with these as well. So this is that your energy is off. And by your energy, what I mean is you're really coming from this place of fear and lack and scarcity, which is ego consciousness, versus love, abundance, and possibility, which is this kind of creative consciousness. And when we're coming from this sort of lack, fear, and scarcity consciousness when we speak, which, let's be honest, most of us do until we do the inner work, including myself, because that's how we're already conditioned to really fear the world and get into survival mode as quickly as possible. But when we come from this place of fear, lack, and scarcity, then we tend to fall on one side of the fence or the other in terms of how we show up energetically in a conversation. So either we're going to be bringing this energy of passivity, of insecurity and doubt and hesitation, or we're going to be coming with this energy of combativeness, aggressiveness, defensiveness, and reactivity. But really, they're both driven from fear. It's just they manifest slightly differently. So when your voice is driven from fear, that's actually what people are reading. So you can say, I mean, and you're reading this as well, by the way, consciously and unconsciously. But you can say almost like whatever you want. But if the underlying tone and energy of your voice is fearful, as I say, whether it's reactive or whether it's passive, then that is what people are going to read. So, what do you think you're going to get from that fearful energy driving your voice? People aren't going to listen. They're not going to respect you. They're going to ignore you. They're going to think, well, Anuska doesn't know what she's talking about. Switch off. I'm not going to listen. Or you might be the other side of the coin, more combative and reactive. And then all you do is you just butt heads with people. You end up just being in this, what my coach used to call shadow boxing. So we're both just really sort of fighting our own unconscious programming, but we don't even realize it. We really believe it's in that person. From this perspective, then, your energy is going to drive how people receive your words, how people react to you. And in most cases, if it's fear driving it, whether it's combative, reactive, or passive and insecure, people aren't going to listen to you. They are going to walk away. They're going to stonewall you. They're going to ignore you. They're going to shout over you. They're going to disrespect you because your energy is one of fear and don't listen to me. Don't come near me. And that's what you're going to get. So coming back to my original principle of the world as a mirror, then this is really what you're going to see, that the world is simply going to reflect that back. So start to notice, where is my energy? Like, what do I notice I get most in my interactions? Is it more that people stonewall me and ghost me and run away and don't want to have conversations with me? Because that suggests the passivity in you. Or do you find yourself in more reactive situations where you butt heads and there's a lot of both of you wanting to be right and arguing and talking over each other and shouting over each other? So just notice, like, where do you live most of the time? Because that's going to show you a lot about what's going on within you. But either way, as I said, it's fear driven. And you're defending something, you are protecting something from your ego's perspective. And that's what you really need to address to be truly free. And then you can have more open conversations with more success, because you're not coming at it from a place of fear, lack, and scarcity. You're coming at it from a place of love, openness, and possibility. So, number two, and I've talked about this as well before, is you don't really want to be heard. And I know this is really difficult for the ego to accept. No, no, I want to be heard. I want my partner to listen to me. I want my boss to take notice of me. But you have to, again, be really honest with yourself. And this is where the self-awareness comes in. This is where this deeper work around raising your consciousness comes in. Because if you are seeing it as a pattern that people don't listen to you, then on some level you don't want to be heard. On some level, you see it as a threat. Coming back to the ego is all about survival, separation. So on some level, you see this as a threat. And again, if you come from the logical mind of, well, I don't see it as a threat, then you're just going to be stuck forever. So this is where, in my work with coaching, we look at the triggers, but we also do something called active imagination. So we can actually sort of work with the power that is our imagination to understand, like, what's really going on in the unconscious. This isn't something I can really cover in this video, but if you're interested, there's plenty of videos on that. But it's really, really powerful way to work with this, because from the ego's perspective, it usually just shuts this off. No, 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 it's in them. It's their problem. Nothing to do with me. Really, when we reclaim that projection and reclaim our power, then we can actually start to create incredible things in our life. So a good question to ask yourself, but don't answer it as in put the question out there to yourself, journal, just think the question, go for a walk, go for a jog, whatever it is that you do, take the dog for a walk. What is the emotional payoff when people don't listen to me? What do I emotionally avoid when people don't listen to me? And just let that question sit with you, because something will come through, but don't try and force the answer. Don't try and logically, from your ego, intellectually, analytically answer that question. It will come through. And most likely it will be something to do with vulnerability, something to do with really being seen, maybe a fear of being criticized, of being ridiculed, being rejected. It will be something around that. But again, you have to be sort of really willing to go there. So this is a big part of this work. And why I really believe private coaching is the only way, because I've done years of private coaching around this, I should add, is really the only way to break free because our egos are so clever at actually keeping us in this sort of matrix. And I almost would say as well, the more intelligent you are, the more educated you are, the harder this is because you've now got a more educated, intelligent ego that can argue black is white, blue is green. It can argue anything. So it really then requires someone to help you start to navigate, what am I actually really seeing? The truth is as well, if your energy is off or you don't really want to be heard, consciously or unconsciously, it's going to impact your voice 100%. Your voice will never function authentically, freely, openly, powerfully, expressively if fear is the energy driving your voice. If on some level you don't really want to be heard, you're not going to be allowing your voice out. And that can manifest in so many different ways. But it's really, again, starting to take ownership for, okay, my voice isn't that clear. My voice isn't that powerful. My voice isn't that free or open. What part of me doesn't actually want to be heard? What part of me really fears that vulnerable, open, free conversation? And obviously, we are in a world now where people fear being cancelled. I was talking to a public speaking coach on Friday, and she was saying how she noticed it a lot in schools with teenagers. They really fear, particularly speaking up and expressing themselves amongst their peers for fear of being rejected and cancelled. But I think even as adults, if we don't do the inner work, we take that with us into adulthood. So it's a big part of our world now on social media where videos go viral with AI, it could even be a fake video of you speaking. So there's so many things now I think we fear around expression, and then we consciously or unconsciously shut our voice down. We don't express ourselves. But then we get frustrated that people don't listen to us. We get frustrated that people don't take us seriously. They don't respect what we have to say, but we have to bring the power back because it's always about us, not from a place of blame because you're unconscious to it, but from a place of responsibility. Now, number 3 is you don't listen, or you're listening from a place of fear. So again, there's a theme here. So often, again, this is shadow work. So often when people say, well, so-and-so doesn't listen to me, and then you're like, but do you listen to so-and-so? Well, I suppose not. So we are very quick to judge other people for not listening to us, but we don't actually really listen. Now, you might think that you listen, but be really honest. Are you listening but preparing to speak while you listen? So you're not really engaged. You might be distracted, you might be on your phone, you might be looking around the room, or you might even just be thinking about what do I want to say as soon as I get a break in the conversation. So then you're not really listening. You might sit there and allow the person to speak, but you're not present. You're not actually really listening. So again, this is not to blame yourself, but be really honest. Because if you're not present with people and you don't listen to people, well, why would people listen to you? And coming back to my original point that the world is a mirror, no one is going to listen to you on some level because we get what we give energetically. Now, I just want to make a point to this because this was me very, very much in my 20s. You might say to me, yeah, but Aniska, I do listen to people. I am a really good listener and I am very present with people, but they still don't listen to me. And this would have been me. Now, then you've got to be really honest with yourself because you have to ask yourself, am I listening to people from a true place of wanting to connect? Or am I listening to people because I hope that they'll stick around and they'll like me and they'll want to be my friend and they won't abandon me and I won't be alone? Now, when I started doing this work, and I used to complain all the time to my coach that I felt like I was a really good listener, but no one listened to me. And I felt like I always attracted people that just wanted to talk at me, broadcast at me. And then because I'd sit there and listen. And it used to really irritate me after a while because I'm like, you don't ever ask me any questions. This is all very one-sided. But what I had to really start to accept in myself was that I was listening to avoid being alone. I was listening to avoid being abandoned because people like to be heard. People like to be listened to. And we pick up on people that will listen to us, even if it's not immediately obvious. We kind of emanate this energy of, I'm going to listen to you speak. So I used to attract loads of people that just liked offloading all their problems and talking at me and sharing all their woes with me. And I would sit there and listen, but then increasingly I'd get more and more irritated. So what I had to really accept was I wasn't listening from a true place. I wasn't listening from an authentic place. I was listening to avoid being by myself. And so when I started to shift that, and I started to be okay with butting in or saying, I need to go, I haven't got time to have this conversation, I started to put boundaries down around it then when I'd sort of had enough. Or I might just interrupt them because they've been talking for like 10 minutes and then start talking about myself. Then things started to shift. And now I don't attract those people like I used to in my 20s really strongly. So I just wanted to put that point in because this is so common as well, particularly if you perceive yourself to be a bit more gentle and sensitive and easygoing. And maybe you're someone like myself that's a coach, so you have a natural affinity to really listen to people. But I think we have to balance it with, am I actually allowing myself to be heard as well, which I wasn't. Then number 4, which really impacts everything that we've talked about, but I've also put it as a separate point because in its own right, this might be your doorway into this. This might be the only way you realize what's actually really going on for me, is your voice turns people off. Now, again, I'm not talking about accents or dialects or anything like that. I'm just talking about your tone, your energy behind your voice. So you might, for example, be very loud. And when you talk to people, it's like you're shouting at people all the time. There's one volume and you almost broadcast at people, kind of like what I was experiencing in my 20s. You just talk at people and your voice is very loud. You have no ability to really vary your volume. In fact, you may not even realize how loud your voice actually is. And it puts people off because it's like you're hitting them over the head with a saucepan every time you speak, because it's just like, whoa, this is loud. So you might start to notice that. Maybe you might get some feedback. Maybe you might hear yourself on a recording and you realize that you have no variety in your volume. I think that's very common as well. Maybe you're the other side of the coin. Maybe your voice is really quiet and mumbled and muffled, and it's really difficult to actually hear anything you're saying. And people have to keep asking you to repeat yourself because you're sucking your voice into your throat, and it's really, really hard work. And this is this is another hard truth, is no one is going to make that much effort to follow you and understand you unless they have to. So unless you're their boss, or maybe you're their parent, even then that's questionable. But if they don't have to listen to you, they're not going to listen to you because no one wants to have to work that hard to understand what you're saying. And no one wants to be shouted at and hit over the head every time you open your mouth. So it's your responsibility to change this. But again, coming back to the other points, this would be the symptom for me. If I was working with you, this would be the symptom, but there would be an emotional cause as to why you always shout at people, why you're always really quiet. Another one could be that your voice is very abrupt and snappy, clipped and harsh. So it sounds like you're almost telling people off like a teacher. When you speak to people, it's quite almost slightly aggressive. And again, you may not know that that's how you come across. You may not know that that's how you speak. You might have some very brave soul that tells you that. Or maybe you listen to yourself on a recording and you're like, whoa, okay, I sound very teachery when I speak. So just start to pay attention to this because, as I say, this could be your entry point. And then another example could be that your voice has just got no expression. It's just boring, it's dull, it's flat sounding, it's monotonous, and you sound bored when you speak, and yet you expect people to listen to you. But would you listen to you if you had to listen to that voice? So again, it's not about blaming yourself because you're doing the best you can with where you're at and your level of consciousness, but you are responsible to create the change. As I said, my work is really the voice is the effect, the mind is the cause. So it depends on your level of consciousness. You might be at a level of consciousness where you only really notice the effect at the moment versus, okay, there's some deeper causes going on. And there's some emotional stuff that's really driving why I'm snappy, why I'm loud, why I'm quiet, why I sound really boring when I speak. So that's really where I come in because I help you to kind of bridge that gap between emotionally what's going on what's driving your voice, and then the actual voice that you are creating. So again, this has got nothing to do with your accent. All accents can be authentic and open and free and powerful and expressive. This is to do with how open your voice really is and how free your voice really is. And that's what this is all about. It's not about me making you sound like someone completely different. So this is deep work. Your voice really is an outer expression of what's going on within, and you are responsible to create that change, but you are not to blame for why your voice is the way it is, but you are responsible to create the change. And it's always something going on within you, driven by your ego, driven by survival, driven by fear. And if you don't address it and integrate it, you are going to keep noticing situations. Even if you leave a job and go somewhere else, or you leave a relationship and go to a new one, you will keep attracting the same pattern in that person, because it's really you that you're seeing in that person, in that job, with your boss, fill in the blank. So if you would like to find out more, if you're interested in going deeper with your voice, I would love to speak to you. This is an investment in yourself, in your voice, in your life. So please do book a 30-minute voice consult if you're ready to make that ultimate investment in yourself. But until next week, I'll see you then.